Burns, and that's a perfect example of flexible ethics. Um, you know, you and this is one of the things that Lex tried to teach is sometimes you have to be somebody else. You have to be sincere, whether that sincerity is real or whether that sincerity is faking it. And I told you the story about the fellow I met at a conference who I really wanted to get his business, and he manufactured garbage cans, of all things, garbage cans. I mean, how much can you talk about garbage cans? And I spent about half an hour talking to him about, what size garbage, who do you sell to? Well, what colors do you produce them in? Are these commercial or are these residential, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually he turned to me and said, well, what do you do? And that was it. That was my opening. But that was totally faked sincerity. It didn't harm anybody at all. It made him feel good. Was I really interested in his garbage cans? No. But I was really interested in getting him on as a client. So there you have it. So that's really a great quote. The key to success is sincerity. If you can fake it, you've got it made. Do you guys agree with that? How do you know comfort level until it's uncomfortable? Well, that's exactly it. When you try it, and it makes you feel guilty. Well, not the first time, because I mean, sometimes it's a matter of getting used to something. If you feel really badly about it, if you feel that you have harmed somebody, or if you feel that you have just scored for yourself and for your business by being just a touch devious and different, then you're okay. If you feel that you've hurt somebody and you wake up at night and you say, that wasn't nice, or that's really beyond my character, because some people can do it a lot easier, some people can't. Some people are natural liars. We see that in politics, and I saw it in politics. Oh my goodness! I used to do government lobbying in Ottawa, and the stuff I saw. I mean, I used to have a full head of hair before I started meeting a lot of these politicians. But it's as Earl says, it's your core. It's how you have to balance. Okay, and if you try the same thing a couple of times and you feel you find if it doesn't harm anybody, all you're doing is becoming a storyteller, and that's basically it. There's not a lot of illegalities involved. You're just twisting the situation to accommodate what you want out of it. Because remember that everything revolves around what you want out of it and what the customer wants out of it. Everything else is irrelevant. Okay, so here's a few rules, and we have a bunch more that we will talk about. Compliment sincerely, or act sincere. I mean, don't be flippant. And the one thing you have to realize, even if the person you're meeting is a jerk, they have probably worked very hard to build their business to get to where they are. They have a lot at stake. They have a lot at stake in trying to hire you or take you on as a supplier or a contractor. So try and find something to compliment the person about. And if you can't, make it up. Play to others' ego. Ego is a big driver when it comes to, should I hire you or not? If you flatter me, if you tell me how great I am, if you walk into a store and you try on a suit and somebody says, oh my God, that makes you look 20 pounds lighter and 15 years younger. Sold. I mean, do they mean it? No. They're making it up. They're playing to my ego. Put up a good front. Always stay in character. And I think Lex talked to you about staying in character, but be true to yourself. Whatever you do has to become part of you. It has to be something that you're comfortable with. And to be true to yourself, to me, means I am going to do this because I believe in it. I trust in what I want out of a situation eventually, not maybe at this meeting, not maybe at this conversation, but at the end of the day, I want to score with this client. So to me, that's being true to myself. So you do just about anything within certain standards that you're comfortable with to succeed. And that includes being true to yourself. Okay, the painful takeaway. Do you guys know what a takeaway is? No. Yeah. Okay. A takeaway is a takeaway is every Monday night. A takeaway is you approach somebody and you can't live with their terms. You can't. They're pushing you too far to the wall. But you know by this time they like you, because they wouldn't push you that far unless they really liked you or wanted to work with you. So you just say, no, I can't. I would lose money on the contract. You can make stuff up like, I want to make sure I deliver what you need. I don't want to shortchange you. I don't want to fit into a budget that I can't deliver what you need to get done. So find a way to turn that around. So that's the takeaway. And quite often, offer them an alternative and set limits on what you'll do. Quite often they'll say, okay, let's talk about it. And quite often it works, because by the time they're negotiating that, in their minds, they've already hired you. So it's a matter of finding a compromise. When I do government proposals, I always have 2 or 3 backup plans. So I have a proposal in now that I'm meeting by phone with some government connections on Tuesday or Wednesday. Anyways, so what I want to do is set up some Indigenous resource centers. But if they're going to object to it, I will say, okay, well, let's try a pilot project for a year. And this is what you're talking about, Ted. This is offering alternatives. Let's try a pilot project for a year. And if they say, well, that's probably good, or if they say no, I said, well, maybe we should do a business plan and a feasibility to see what we really need in the region. And I know one of those things will work. So anytime you go into a client, you should have some backup plans as to what you're willing to accept. One of the things I've always done in consulting, and it's something that's impossible for your client to verify. If it's an RFP, for example, I will quote more hours and less dollars per hour. So it sounds like whoever is looking at the proposals feels that they're getting more of my time and more of my attention. Do they? I complete a job to get the job done, and I'm good at it, and I will never shortchange anybody. But in order to get the business, I will say I'm going to put in more hours and less charge out rate per hour, and it works. It almost always works. Okay, stay in character. You are going to develop, or you have developed, that business persona. It's working for you. You may have to fine tune it, but it's who you are. And stay in character, because that's how people will know you. That's how people will remember you. That character can include how you speak, how you dress, whether you're a little bit flashy in terms of your dress, whether you're just a super happy person. Can it be one and the same me? If the character that you're most comfortable with is who you are, and you find it's working for you, then that's great. But if you find that you're approaching some of these potential clients and they find you too shy, or they find that you're too serious, then you better start being somebody else, because you've got to appeal to them, appeal to their ego, appeal, flatter, skate, everything. Okay. Never complain. Nobody cares. And I've had so many people come to me and say, oh, I have a cold. Well, these days you can't say that. But, I have a cold. I didn't sleep very much last night. My son was up all night long, and I had to be with him. You know what? I don't care. The person you're with doesn't care. They only care what's in it for them. They don't care. They may have a little bit of sympathy and say, oh, that's too bad. Really, I had that too. Okay, what do you got? You got never complain. Nobody cares. The best example of that is I was in to do a proposal. And I think I mentioned this one too. It's a large aerospace company back east. And I got a call on my cell, which I'd forgotten to turn off. And I was meeting with their board of directors. And my son had broken his wrist in school, and my wife couldn't be found. So I had to excuse myself, even though it took me about 6 months to get that time to present to him. And I explained the situation. They said, oh, not a problem. Give us a call. We'll rebook. Family is number one. I could never get in the door again. Never. They held that against me forever. I never got in the door again. So okay. Never look or act surprised. Even if you are, even if they throw you a curveball, just go with it. Find a way to deal with it, but don't look surprised. Listen, and show interest even if you don't give a damn. Really super. Here, when we talk about, there's one here, I want to put up a good front. Compliment regardless and put up a good front. Everybody knows who Billy Crystal is. Famous comedian, doesn't do much these days, but he was great. And he used to, on Saturday Night Live, he used to play some Latino host. And his famous line was, how did it go? He says, looking good is more important than feeling good. And you look marvelous, darling, just marvelous. So there you go. That was image, and just shows you how important image is. Image is really critical to it all. A couple of other stories. You talk about flexible ethics. When I was, where is it? Okay, Pink Flamingos. I've told you the story. But when I was running an outdoors TV adventure show in China, of all places, we were working with a network called GTV, and they had a viewing audience of 490 million people. Now, they weren't all watching our show, but it was pretty good viewership, and we were selling a lot of advertising, and it was going very well. And it lasted for about 2 years. But it was funny because the Chinese way of doing business, there's names are important. Name dropping is important. Status is important. And because of my name, and because they were so unfamiliar with North American names, a couple of times they asked me if I was related to Steven Spielberg. And I just laughed. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just kind of chuckled and kind of gave them the, little wink. And once they asked me if I was related to Steven Soderbergh, because the names are so familiar to them, it was almost the same name. And I never denied it. One time, there was one of the guys who was a TV, retro TV aficionado. He loved it. And he used to watch The Lone Ranger, of all things. And he asked me if I was any relation to Jay Silverheels, who played Toronto, who played Tonto. And I said, no, it's not. Yeah. Anyways, so, but I never said no. I never said yes. And it helped in my negotiations with them because they thought I was a more important person than I really was. So there you go. Flexible ethics didn't hurt anybody. Bent the rules. Okay, so we're gonna take a break now, but I wanted to start going through some rules, and then to Tomorrow, I want to talk about the psychology of business, what gets people to say yes. The what's in it for me. We talked about what's in it for me, but there's a whole section on how to do it to your advantage. And we'll talk about that. So there's a lot of material to cover. Tomorrow, we will also be announcing the winners for the business awards. For those of you who submitted a business summary of your idea or your operation or what you're looking to do, the deadline for that, if you remember correctly, was June 15th. So we have some winners. We will announce them tomorrow at the end of the workshop, because tomorrow is our last workshop. I can't believe it. But time goes fast. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we will start again on some of the rules of flexible ethics. So if any of you see, I'm wearing my Business Rebel shirt today. So if any of you have to jump into your car and get your sunglasses out of your car to be able to look at the screen and with this shirt, I will understand. And we'll see you at 7:20. Thanks. One more minute and we'll resume here. Hope you've all got your drinks, your mineral water, your glass of wine. For those of you who find it really hard to take all this good stuff on flexible ethics and business ethics and being a business rebel, it's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes there's a lot to absorb. There's a lot to get involved here. Some people are very comfortable with it, and some are not. It took me quite a while to develop the persona of the business rebel. It did. And yeah, Jacques, like a bowl of Jell-O, yeah. And we'll be talking about this, adapting to, yeah. So welcome back. Let's continue on some of the principles guiding flexible business ethics. Now, keep in mind, I said before, flexible ethics are very personal. Some people take them a little too far. They should not be harmful. They should not be illegal, immoral. Really, everybody has a bit of a different definition of morality. They can be edgy. They can be adaptive to whatever situation you're in. But they're very, very, very effective. They are. Okay. Never burn bridges, even if tempted to. How many of you have been with a client and you've burnt the bridge and then you needed to go back for whatever reason? Anybody? I have, and it's not pleasant. It's just as easy if it's a situation where you just can't make it work, you can just say, look, this isn't working for you. It's not working for me. Maybe we'll find another way to get something done later on, but for right now, we're just gonna back away. And it works. People respect that. But anyway, but never burn a bridge by calling people names and mean mouthing them to other clients or associates, because the business world isn't a big place and it'll get back to them, guaranteed. Somehow, somewhere. Did you hear so-and-so called you a real a-hole? Really? Really? Yeah. So anyways, don't let it happen to you. Talk about who the client wants you to be, not necessarily who you are. You are who you are. When you go in to see a client, you have to adapt to their environment. If they're casual, you be casual. If they curse and swear, you can throw in a little bit here and there. If they're very pompous and formal, make sure you are as well. So really adapt to the environment and adapt to the style and who the client is and what he expects of you, or what she expects of you. So when you're meeting people, you have to be like a chameleon. You have to be able to size this up really quickly, so that you're on the same playing field as they are. It's really critical. Okay, think of what's in it for me and what's in it for him or her. And we will talk about that more, because WIFM is a big part of business ethics, and there's ways to make it work for you. Don't brag about yourself. Don't spend all the time. This is what my partner used to do. He used to brag about who he was and how great things were and how terrific he was. Don't do that. You have to assume that you are sitting in front of somebody because they want to see you. They're interested in seeing you, so they have done some homework. They were referred to you by a friend, by a business associate. You don't have to keep selling. At some point in time, it's enough. Unless they say, tell me more about yourself, or tell me, what kind of businesses you work with, etc., or a little bit about your background. They may. But for the most part, you can sell yourself for just a little bit, but most of the time, you just want to listen. Okay? In Hollywood, there used to be a cliche, never let them see you cry. The same applies in business. Don't share disappointments. It doesn't earn you any respect at all. Don't tell people about the contracts you lost, an investment you made that didn't pan out, a business you ran, but you had fights with your partner, so you had to call it a day. Don't do that. It doesn't work. The Russians have a word for it. It's called kvetch, K-V-E-T-S-H. And it means whining. Don't be a whiner. People hate whiners. I mean, when somebody would come into my office and they were trying to sell me something and they would whine, it would drive me absolutely crazy. Just absolutely crazy. Here's a couple of examples of flexible ethics, and it can be risking. Flexible ethics may mean that you may need to risk a little just to get noticed. There's this one here I talked to you about, Sweet Jesus Ice Cream. Started in 2015. They've been panned about the name of their business. And they do this very fancy, frilly ice cream. And they call themselves Sweet Jesus because they figured as soon as you tried their homemade ice cream, you'd say, oh, sweet Jesus, this is amazing. But anyways, they're very successful. They've franchised. They've got a number of outlets across Canada. So that they took a risk. And here's a guy who's taken a risk. He just wants business. He's open for business. They specialize in eco disasters, or ecotourism. They'll do whatever it takes. Whatever you want, they will deliver. So there's that. Yeah. Talk to you about Seal Bay. So let's talk about WIIFM. What's in it for me? Thinking how it applies directly to you personally and how WIIFM applies to others with whom you are dealing, because those are the only two people who count, okay? When it's from your perspective, okay, sometimes business requires you to be a little ruthless. You are the only person, you are alone and are number one. You have to look after yourself. You are the most important person in any transaction. You know, you have to pay attention to the customer, obviously, and figure out what they want and how you can meet their needs and meet their services. But at the end of the day, you and you alone are number one. And this is something that I drill into everybody that I work with and mentor. Do only what's good for you, not just what might be expected from you. Okay? Really, if you want me to tell your wife, Ted, I can. Just leave me your phone number and I'll do that. Yeah, the trick is to find the sweet spot where it's good for both of you. But at the end of the day, you are number one. You know, they say that the most important part of business is not only delivering and the blah, 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 but it's making a profit for its investors, owners, or shareholders. You are number one in any relationship, okay? You have a responsibility to yourself to make sure you are number one, you know? And that means you can be selfish as well. Not selfish to the point where you will, you know, turn off your customers and they will be, you know, very distraught with how you're dealing with them. But in your own reasoning and your own mindset, you are number one. You are the most important person in any transaction. So now let's look at the other side. What's in it for me thinking from the client's perspective, okay? What's in it for me thinking is what every customer will ask, so be prepared. So right from the beginning, you should, you know, one of the things I've always recommended is, okay, it says, how can you be number one if the customer is always right? Stephen, you got to learn to skate. You got to learn to skate. The customer, you can make sure that the customer feels he's number one in his eyes, but that doesn't mean he's number one in your transaction to try and sell him a piece of artwork. And the customers aren't always right. They're not always right. That's right, Lex. They're not always right. You have to figure out very quickly what the customer wants. And usually, every time I used to make a call for trying to get a contract from someone, I would research the customer. I would find out as much as I could, not only about the company, but the person, because you are dealing with an individual at the company. It's the individual who will say yes, not ABC molding and dye lots. It's the person that you're meeting who will ultimately say yes or no. So I will try and get a background. You know, when you go on the website and it says meet our team, and so you see if you can find the person that you're meeting, and you find that his background is very much numbers crunching or sales background. So you have to try to align your presentation with what his background is to make him more comfortable. So I see my job in marketing is to not give customers what they want, but rather what they need. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that, Lex. I try to give the clients what they want, even though, you know, if I feel that what they want is not necessarily what they need, then I try to convince them that what they want is not necessarily what they should be getting. So it's part of dealing with the client and winning their trust. And as Ted said, only if you can convince them it's what they need. So it's not semantics. It's actual. Sometimes you go in to visit a client and says, "This is what I want." So you say, "Okay, I can deliver it." And once you start working with them, you say, this isn't exactly. There's a better system. There's a better product. There's a better service. And this might be something that you need. So before you get them to change their mind, you have to get their trust. And in order to get the contract, you have to assume that you are going to deliver with what they want. They may not know what they need, but they know what they want. And that's what you have to cater to. Okay? Know your targets and cater to them. WIFM should be in every contact, every communication, and every pitch. And if you know what they want, make sure they understand that you're the one who can deliver it, whether it's a product or service. It's not what you want to sell or promote. It's what the target wants and needs that's important. And I used to see this all the time with my clients, particularly with techie clients. They do research. Most of the research was funded by government grants, and they develop something, and they say, "Okay, this is it. We're bringing it to the market." And my question is, who the hell is going to buy this? Like, who's your target market? Who needs this? And I think I told you the story about the snow bikes. They developed these bikes on skis that you race down the hill. And I said, you can't get me a helmet big enough to keep me from breaking my brain when I take a tumble on one of these puppies. And just crazy. So, but they developed this. They thought it was a good idea, but they didn't do any market research. They didn't check the market to see who actually wanted one of these. They just figured everybody did because that's, in their mind, that's what they had developed. So, make sure whoever you are dealing with, or with whatever marketplace you're dealing with, you understand what they want, and you understand what they need, and try to deliver that. But to get in the door, you have to be able to provide, or start to provide, what they want, because they have done their own work, they have done their own homework, they have done their own preparation, and this is what they feel that they need, or what they want, rather. And then you can talk to them about what they need. Okay? This is my cup of care. Oh, look, it's empty. You're assuming that your client cares about you. Do you think your client cares about you? Does your client care about you? Anybody? Sometimes. Some do, but ultimately they are self-driven. Does your client care about you? Anybody else? People care about themselves. You walk in, you tell somebody that you're not feeling well. I don't care. I mean, I can't say I don't care. I'm not totally callous, but I don't really care. I just want to know what you can do for me. I don't want to be your shrink. I don't want to be your mother. I don't want to be your partner, your life partner. I don't want to be your drinking buddy. I just want to know what you can do for me. There is something that we'll talk about later, but I can introduce it now. There's something called the selfish gene. And the selfish gene basically says, where is it here? Let's see if I can. Selfish gene. People act out of their own self-interest. And this is what drives people. People are driven by their own self-interest. There is recognize that other people's selfish gene, it's human nature. Everybody acts out of their own self-interest. You know, when you give to a charity, why do you give to charity? What's working upstairs? What are you thinking when you give to charity? What's working behind the scenes? Anybody? It makes you feel good. And it makes you feel good. That's right. But the other thing is, when you give to a charity, let's say when you give to Hospital for Sick Kids, you do it because you are very grateful that your kids are healthy. When you give to any one of a bazillion diseases we have out there, it's because either somebody you know has had the disease, but it's mostly you're saying, oh, thank God, that's not me. You know? And that's why people give to charities. That's why some charities do really well. Like Sick Kids charities do really well. When they ran charities for HIV and AIDS, couldn't raise anything because people they didn't want to be connected with that at all. But where there are charities, you know, when they run charities for some of these third world war-torn countries, and they always show you images of these poor kids or these poor homeless refugees. And in the back of your mind, you're saying, I will give because I'm not one of them. I'm lucky to live here in Canada. I'm part of the privileged small percentage of the world. I don't want to be one of them. And that's very selfish, but it's actually what drives people. Learn how to manipulate it to give you what you want. You know, when you talk, what are the main hot buttons when you're selling? Okay, and these are the ones you have to be able to, and they're all selfish. You have greed. You know, I want the most for the least. I want ego. I want something that's going to make me look good. It's going to give me that promotion I want. It's going to make me feel like I scored. Pride. Look at me. I am a great negotiator. I have done a remarkable job in securing you know, services or this contract. And sloth. I am lazy. I don't want to do this. I am farming it out to someone. If they say they can do it and it'll give me more free time, then that is one of the motivators. So these are the motivators that push people, and there are a lot more which we will cover tomorrow night. But these are the four main motivators that push people: greed, ego, pride, and sloth. So if you can find ways to appeal to any of these motivators with people that you are dealing with, you will be appealing to their selfish gene. And your chances of scoring a sale are much stronger. Something from Lex. Newfoundlanders are the highest proportional percentage of income donors in Canada. Interesting. Why would that be? They know what it's like to be down. That's interesting. Okay. So when you look at the selfish world, I mean, this is the universe. And this is me. Everything revolves around me. Everything revolves around me. You know, stuff about me and my stuff and stuff I hate and stuff I love and others are out here. Well, and then there's nowhere. But that's wrong. You can't have others this far out and still succeed in business. The world does not revolve solely around you. It doesn't. Sorry to tell you that, but it doesn't. So we're going to go back to what's in it for me. Where is my thinking now? No. Okay, so what's in it for me thinking? I mean, here we have Moses on the mountain and said, these are fine, but what's in it for me? I mean, that's cute, but you'd be amazed how everything people say and do, they always think about what's in it for them. Definitely. And sometimes it's very blatant and you just kind of shake your head and say, I would never do anything like that. But other times, everybody acts in their own self-interest. And that's the cardinal rule of human nature. Okay, blue-collar people tend to give to a higher level because they can relate to poverty needs. Yeah, that's true. What the heck is this?
Here are some results.
Oh, Siri just talked to me. Oh my God, Siri, take a holiday. Okay. So what's in it for me thinking? You may not believe this, but people really don't care about your product and service. You know, they say that a sale is based on 75% who you are, how you present yourself, how they like you, how you meet their wants and maybe their needs, how you identify with them, how you make them comfortable, all the things about business ethics. And some of this stuff people have a really hard time with because they feel that it should be about their product or service. And it's not. About 75%, probably about 20 or 25% has to do with your product or service. The rest is packaging. The rest is packaging. Okay. They may like what you're selling, but they will only buy if it delivers something for them. And that's why we talk about those motivators and hot buttons. And that could be, you know, making them look good in their jobs, making their life easier, taking the load off from their workload, making them more competitive, or just making them feel good about themselves. And if you can become a master, you know, and a lot of people say, well, this is, you know, this has nothing to do with business. They're wrong. This has everything to do with business. This has everything to do with business. Okay, that's what branding is. Yeah. What about stories? Your story. Do people connect with that? We were going to talk about that tomorrow too, but people love stories. People feel that stories are they love to relate to stories. And when you tell stories that are not off color, but certainly, you know, when I tell people that I built a multi-million-dollar plant that produces sawdust for McDonald's, they get a real kick out of that. They do. Because, I mean, who would do that? Who would think of doing that? You got to be a little crazy to do that. You know, you got to be a business rebel to do something like that, you know? Or when you tell people that you produced a fishing and outdoors adventure show for China, you know, they love to hear stuff like that because, you know, they'll think maybe in the back of their mind, they can think big like this too. When you tell them stories, like one of the things I had a joint venture in a battery plant in St. Petersburg. And this plant was so old that half the time it was flooded. And it was huge. It was as big as the new mall in Victoria. It was massive. It was massive. But half the time they couldn't pay their electric bills, and the machinery was old, and so I mean the stuff that we used to produce was batteries and titanium parts for bicycles, and I mean it was a riot. I had a great time. And when I told him that I actually arranged a contract to rent naval vessels from the Russian military or the Russian Navy and lease them out to the New Zealand Oceanographic Institute to do a research project. And I was just a middleman. And in order to do it, I had to go to Vladivostok, probably the coldest place I've ever been, with a small suitcase full of money to pay the sailors who hadn't been paid in months, and to pay for fuels, and to pay for engine parts, or they couldn't make it happen. So, I mean, people love these stories because they can relate to the fact that you have tried, you have been out there, you know, you've done stuff that other people might not think of. And if you can come up with these stories, whether they are real or embellished, mine happen to be real, but you know, people react very, very strongly to stories. You know, when you look at when you look at an advertisement, and you see this on CNN, okay, as an example, whether you believe CNN or not, and they'll talk about the COVID statistics in the States, and you see the statistics are 125 dead, 125,000 dead, X million with infections, and lunatic running the country. And okay, you become callous to all this. But when they produce a story about a father who's dying, and his daughters gather around him from different parts of the country, and they fight to get to his side. And I mean, this is the kind of stuff that sells. This is the kind of stuff that just touches your heart, touches your heartstrings. You know, people react well to stories, and as Lex mentioned, sales copies should tell stories. Your promotional material, your website shouldn't just say, we're good, we're great, we have a product that works really well. It'll save you 10%, it'll save you 20%. No. Tell a story. Tell a story of how your product was shipped up to Inuktuk and, helped the community in trouble. Or, tell a heartwarming story where people can relate. Tell them about, you provided the service to a grandmother whose family couldn't get to her bedside. I mean, there's anything like that. Would tell a story, like kids, pets. That's why there's so many stories about pets. You saved a dog. Your product saved a dog. Your product, these are the kind of things that touch people's hearts. And if you can pull at their heartstrings, you will attract them to possibly being your clients. And that's what you want. At the end of the day, you want to deliver a sale that's going to generate cash into your business, that's going to help you run your business, make some money, do what you want your business to do, and meet your goals of your business. At the end of the day, everything that we talk about here, regardless of all the psychology, regardless of what's in it for me, flexible ethics, business rebel, blah, 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 it's all great. I think it's great. They're great strategies. But at the end of the day, it's what's in it for you. Okay? It's not that people are uncaring, it's that people are driven by selfish gene. If you want to succeed, you better appeal to their self-interest. For example, if you're marketing a website and you're in there pitching, does somebody care that you have 20 years experience and 4 college degrees? That's BS. I couldn't care less. Show me examples of what you've done. Tell me what you can do for me. I don't want to know that you're well educated and that you've got 20 years experience. Show me. You know what I mean? don't sell me on your credentials. Show me what you, because that's all they care about is what will make them look good, drive more traffic to their company site, and translate to more revenues and profits for their company. People are selfish. Here, I saw something from Let's here. I saw an ad for Ghibli's Gin. Visual was a 34 Packard. Headline was, in 1934, people drove to the ends of the earth in search of the perfect martini. The ad went on to talk about how to make the perfect martini. It ended with, the only thing people agreed on was that a great martini starts with Gilbey's. The only mention to the product, that was the only mention of the product except for the logo on the bottle. So keep your message. I mean, stories. People love stories. Thanks, Lex. Thanks for sharing with them. People love stories. And people are selfish. Find a way to appeal to people's selfish genes, because everybody has the selfish gene. You know, we don't think we do, but we do. You know, everybody talks about Mother Teresa, and there are people like Mother Teresa who are pretty well not selfish, but something's driving them. And what may be driving them is doing good for humanity. And that's part of their raison d'etre. That's why they're there, and that's part of them being selfish for themselves. So at the end of the day, everybody is selfish for something. When you can find those hot buttons with potential clients, go for it. Push those buttons. Don't be afraid to push those buttons. Seriously. It's not only very effective, but it's fun. It really is fun. When you get used to it, when you walk into an office or walk into a meeting and everybody introduces themselves, you know, and you're there for a very specific purpose. You're there to pitch your company or to talk about a specific project. And you learn to recognize what everybody's doing there. There'll be someone from government. So, you know, he's there to fill his quota. And that's the reason that government give out grants, because they have a quota to fulfill. So the minister can announce that they have created X jobs with X money. It's not that they're being benevolent. It's not that they're being so gracious and outgoing. It's because they have an agenda, and their agenda is delivering jobs or delivering new enterprises, etc. So that's government. If you see your competition there, that's pretty obvious what it is. If you see, let's say it's they're looking for work on their building, okay? And if you see some of the contractors there, then you know that they're looking for work. So you got to find a way to build them into what you're going to talk about, that you're going to form a team of local contractors and carpenters and electricians and subcontractors, and they're all going to be involved, okay? If you see an architect, then you have to make some sort of allowance to say, yes, we will work with this architect and we'll see what he can bring to the table that will enhance the community and fit in with the local environment, with the local facade, with the local feeling that the community is looking for. So recognize all this, because you know they're all in there for something. And if you can recognize all these hot buttons when you go into a meeting, you know, same thing if you walk into a meeting with a brain dead son-in-law vice president. You see how we come back full circle to the beginning of the workshop? So you've got to find a way to make him feel good, even though you know you're not going to work with him. You can say anything you want. You can say, yes, he's going to be part of our team, or yes, we're going to spend some time consulting with him. But you know you're not. You're just doing it to make him feel good and to make his father-in-law, who's behind the desk, who's signing the check, make him feel good. Any comments about tonight's workshop? Because I think we've probably come to the end. Tomorrow, we're going to pick up with how to be a business rebel. And this is a project that Lex and I actually worked on, and Business Rebel Savvy. It's business, not rocket science. And yeah, it's there's lots about being a business rebel. There's lots more about it. And I want to talk about the psychology and what motivates people, specifics that motivate people, and how to get people to say yes. So this is the kind of thing that I actually really enjoy. There's actually a book coming out in September, October by Business Expert Press out of New York, and it's called A Cynic's Wisdom: Winning in Business Through Flexible Ethics. How's that for a title? What do you think? Yeah, and that's my book, and it's coming out in New York. I'm very excited about it. And it talks about a whole bunch of this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm actually very excited about it. It was, yeah, the name will be A Cynic's Book of Wisdom: How to Win in Business Through Flexible Ethics. And I'm sure I'll have it all over my website, you know, because the publisher wants to promote it. Yeah, they're out of New York, and they deal with a lot of the universities and libraries, and they liked it because it's very different, because everybody talks about all the wonderful stuff of business. But my book talked about this kind of stuff: the business rebel, the flexible ethics, how to turn people on and off. And they really liked it. It was kind of like therapy. So anyways, so that's it for tonight. Thank you all for attending. Tomorrow we have a continuation of same. It's our last webinar in the series, unfortunately, but it's been most enjoyable. And the one thing that you should keep in mind is you have several mentors that you can work with. Myself, there's Lex, in terms of anything to do with marketing and branding and imaging. There is Chris from a technology point of view. And there are, you know, we're offering mentoring for another month or so, month and a half after the workshop is over. So you can get some, and we have a limited budget for it, but these guys are really good. So you can get a lot in an hour and a half, or whatever it requires. So you can bounce stuff off of people, or you can contact me at vithriving@gmail.com. But Lex is an amazing mentor, even if he does say so himself. Chris is a great guy, knows his stuff in technology and different platforms. And me, I know a lot about very little. But if I don't know something, I can make it up. And that, my friends, is flexible ethics. And I wish you all a good night. And we'll see you tomorrow at 6. And we announce the winners of the awards competition. So sorry, Lex, I'm not sure what you're trying to say here. Is what wrong? Yeah. Anyways, whatever. Oh, saying so myself. Stay safe, stay well. Thank you for being part of this webinar tonight, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.